George, any thoughts?
I like the idea, but I think that when you're on about using like fields and stuff and countryside, I don't think that'd work for like a girl group. I think it should be more like in the city and stuff.
A bit more urban, a bit more gritty. I don't know what's the song. Can you play the song again? I don't know that. I'm sorry.
It's nothing like as urban as say Pussycat Dolls was. It's more slushy British. Try.
I remember all the nights I used to stay at home on the phone all night long. Used to talk about the things we really want to do.
Okay, I'm getting it.
Yeah. So for me, yes, if it was an American group, I would agree. Go urban. It's British, so I would disagree.
I think I like if they're interested in stuff. I think it'll look quite good. But
I'll do that in a second, George. Have you rebooted it?
Yeah, and we started software as well.
Ben, what are your thoughts?
I think the
Hold on a
idea.
second. Kid, come around the centre so we actually get the audio.
I think the idea with the sort of studio stuff could work quite well with the. Do you say you were using black and white backdrops for it? Yeah, I think that could work quite well, especially if you're using like different costumes with that. Like mix them up. So I think that's probably the best part I got.
Anyone else?
In terms of the breakup narrative, like what kind of other things were you thinking of doing for it? So like the couple walking and stuff.
Yeah, well we'd have them like having a romantic meal and then them falling out and maybe the girl throwing water in his face or something, but then it flashing back to when they were happy and having a meal together.
Oh right, yeah. And then all cut in as a performance footage as well.
You need a lot of sets, wouldn't you, to make it interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Like you could just do down having a
Oh,
coffee
right.
or something for one scene.
Yeah, and then have the like throwing stuff out of the window and stuff like that.
What, like clothes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what kind of a mix are you going to have between the everything's beautiful, building up relationship, and then it's going song, and have you looked at the lyrics to figure out what kind of balance you get between those, where you're going to have
You could do
those
like
relative
where she
elements?
looks at a phone or something and then his phone and then she sees something and then
Well, I'll ask Millie, because we looked at this yesterday. If you were doing something on the phone, which is a cliche but still very useful for exposition, how would you handle it?
Well, just a shot like of the film itself, seems like the messages just be boring, but then if you layer it with like a performance bit or an ad bit.
Yeah. So that last video we had on, that's what they did. Shot by itself, it is really quite dull. You have that briefly, and you layer on performance as well. It's much nicer, much more aggressive. Jake?
I was going to say, I think the animated work if you had lots of kind of abstract shots and mise en scene.
Well,
and stuff
again,
like that.
maybe hand back to Millie. So, any thoughts on the ending? Well, if you remember the second of those videos, the indie rock one, we looked at the ending of it. What kind of idea did that give out?
It left it on like a cliffhanger, like narrative enigma at the end, so it makes you want to watch the movie.
Yeah, so rather than a closed ending, you know, if you're watching a movie, yes, you expect a closed, a fixed ending. Music video, you do have more scope to break the rules, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So that is potentially a more interesting way to do it. So in that video, you had the guy running after the girl, and it ends with his hands on her shoulder, fade out. You don't know how it goes. So perhaps something along those lines as well.
Can I get it right? The studio shots are going to be black and white, did you say?
No, just a black or a white background.
Okay. I mean, they use effective use of black and white and that transition between a certain time or a reflective thing, and I think you should look at that, and I think that can work very effectively. When I saw your other work, the big issues for me, I think, were costumes that you were wearing and your facial expressions. And the hardest bit for this, just listen to that music, that sort of it's almost wrapping bits of it in there, and it's very, very hard. Your faces have got to be sassy, they've got to be surly, you've got to look in the mirror, you've got to practice it, you've got to be as sexy, really, as the band are, and that is incredibly difficult to pull off. As young women, you know, older women can get away with it who have been in the business a long time, have been media trained, but you've really got to practice that, because for me, that was the thing that really let it down before, I think. Be aware of your costume as well. One of you was wearing a cream dress, and that just didn't, the colour was awful, it just muted into things, it just didn't look quite right. So be really careful about the things that you choose, and the jewellery that you choose, and the accessories that you choose. I think, I know you're quite keen on different kind of outfits, but I do think monochrome can work really well, and everyone in black. It could be short black dresses with long, you know, you can have black leggings and a mix or a layering of outfits, but I do think that can work really well, and I think sometimes you can go a bit over the top. It needs to be in there, but think about the distinction between maybe the studio set and the other stuff that's going on, and make an effect out of that.
Well, I mean, on that as well, because we've been talking about that attitude. So one of the ways attitude can come across if the performers aren't literally handing off men, that sort of thing,
Yeah.
to get across that attitude. It's one of the ways you can do that. So you know, we've got the world's ultimate performer in the room. We've got Jake Wilson in the room. So for example, you know, he could be a guest. Yeah.
He's got a really tight schedule.
£5
Like,
an hour.
Yeah, we struggle to get him ourselves.
Are you going to be in the film? Who is it? 3 of you that are going to be in the film?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, which 3 of you is it?
Which was three
I
of the
think-
band, and which is the Tilly, you're the romantic.
Oh no,
No,
we
no.
found a couple that said they'd do it for us.
All right.
So then it won't be awkward because
Right.
they said they'd be in it. So we haven't decided which 3 of us will be in it yet.
I think you do auditions, and I think the best. I think I would run it past people that can pull those face tricks. I can't do that, but you need to be able to do that and work out who's the best and be brutal about it. Those expressions are critical, and their eye contact. It was the way that some of them are looking off camera, some of them are looking at camera. That combination of things makes all the difference in this kind of video. It really does, and it makes men in pubs want to watch the video while it's on in the background while they're drinking their pints. You know, it's got to be that attractive, and women want to aspire to be those women.
Yeah,
it's
that
critical.
direct gaze. When you're right, it's
Yeah.
both. It's the gaze off camera, but also, and again, we looked at some examples of this yesterday. The direct gaze, the very confident gaze to camera.
Yeah.
It's a feminist / post-feminist
Yeah.
confident stance,
It's
but
a-
equally it's
yeah.
male gaze in a way.
It's a
you know.
fine line between being too provocative and not very nice, and being women who are strong and powerful. And you can be that, but you've got to get it right. Practice a lot in the mirror, really.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point too. So if you've got a couple, fine, screen test them first before you go out and film. Doesn't really matter what backdrop or where it is, just screen test them. And I agree, yourselves. So make sure if you're picking 3 amongst yourselves for the band, you're actually up to performing it. And you, as I've been saying, you've got to be self-critical.
Yeah.
You've got to be. Jake, what were you going to come with?
I was going to say, when you're doing the performance footage, I think you'll need lots of different kind of think about it before you do it. Lots of different clever ones, not just the same old sat on chairs and all the simple ones. I think like they did in a circle with their heads back like
Yeah,
that.
that was nice.
Stuff like that, different. You don't want it to be bored of the same old boring ones.
I have to say yes and no, because you do want some
You
of
do
the
want
old
to be,
boring stuff.
yeah,
You're
so
right.
you can reference back to it and say,
Yeah.
oh, we kind of went over this. But I mean, think of some other different shots as well.
I agree, as long as there's that balance.
Yeah. No, I agree with
And
that.
they to me came across like it was a sisterhood in that women group as well, isn't
Yeah,
there? There's that
yeah.
thing about how do you make women look like they're together and nobody's, you know, getting that, and they managed that in that threesome. They were very close. They were almost, you could put them holding hands. You could, you know, their hair touches each other. That intimacy there that they convey again shows a strong woman. And for me, I was do you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
looking at each other.
Yeah, and just almost
smiling at
flirting with each other,
yeah.
really, in a sort of, not in a sexual way, but just you know, we're tough, we're strong, we're this strong girl group, and I think that can work really well.
Yeah, with boy bands you always get toy fighting. It's quite
That's right.
quite a common thing, Sean
Yeah.
told me, but it is different for a girl band.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on? So I said yesterday, you know, that Spice Girls thing we've mentioned quite a lot of times. This is one simple example. They took a key element from the boy band's format, where you've got really strongly individuated characters, whereas in the girl band format, going right back in the 50s and 60s, it was always about identikit costume. So they changed that. Anything else from the boy band format convention you would bring into this? Any thoughts on that?
Different names.
Dancing.
I suppose you can't really reflect that in the music video, can you?
No. What do you mean by dancing?
For an instrumental section or something. Just the synchronised dance kind of thing and one set.
Yeah.
Variation of shot.
Well, actually, I mean, that is probably, I guess it does tend to be a different style of dancing. The classic boy band thing is the stepping forward with dance moves. You know,
Yeah.
it's a real classic thing. It works very well. Look at that footage when they're out in around the Carn Calf and so on. And they're doing that. It's very simple, but it's very, very effective too. And you know, you don't have much time to work out. You want maybe a dance sequence to repeat, and you can regain that viral, you know, show us your moves sort of thing, very simply as well. So a simple dance move, fine, but again, I don't see why you couldn't take that from the boy band. In terms of your exam, in terms of evaluation, give you something interesting to talk about as well, in terms of challenging conventions, in terms of gender representation as well. It's a really interesting element to pick up on and develop. So what about any videos that are going through your head thinking, yeah, if I was doing this, I'd maybe have a look at this video? Declan?
I think the opposite. I think if you got free female, I definitely should have dancing because you can't really relate to any past one. You never really see dancing with free female artists.
Justin is
Just some
trying.
examples.
Do they really
from
dance?
Atomic, but it's not like full on dancing.
Yeah, I
They're
think
just all doing like the odd arm movement.
You could easily
or
go
they're
wrong with
insane.
just free people dancing.
Well, I think it's less likely to go wrong with 3 than it was with 5.
I think it was better with 5 out of the 3.
Yeah, but it's much more difficult to actually organise, never mind choreograph. Jake?
I can't remember the song, but Girls Aloud, like one of their first songs. And that,
Jump.
nah.
Well, go on. Just describe what it is you're thinking of.
And they're all like, they all pull off like the not too provocative kind of look, but still
Sound of the
look
Underground.
kind of sassy. But yeah, I think Sound of the Underground, that's the one.
That's
Yeah,
a
well,
bit dark.
There is a real difference between the American and British. The American ones, like Pussycat Dolls, are basically soft porn. They really do push the envelope. Their moves are very much strip club
Yeah.
inspired and based, really. The British acts, the clothing, the costume, you know, the sexuality is very ardent and very clear, but they're not as in your face as the American acts. So there's a bit of a difference which should actually be more comfortable and fitting for you for. Sorry?
Saturdays are quite provocative. I think they're just and they're British.
Kel's a pre-deck and you disagree. That's shock. Ben, have you any videos in mind you think if I was doing this I would have a look at that?
I was thinking the one that Jake was thinking, but you could use like, you know, for the white background, what's that Beyonce one?
Oh,
Love
put
on
a
top.
ring on it. Put a ring on it. that
Yeah,
one.
yeah, that.
Whereas
You
if
could
you-
use that,
That's a good idea.
but shouldn't I don't know if it's the right sort of song, that sort of thing. But that's what I was thinking.
Well, I can't picture that. What was it you're describing?
It's
It's
like one
like a white studio in
that
it that's got
it
sides.
changes colour and the camera like pans and moves around.
It's got 3
It's
ladies
good.
in it as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah it does.
One singing and 2 dancing.
Well, part of that idea too of having hands, you know, wearing a bit of cloth, so possibly even filmed in school where there are curtains. I think there's, I think we straighten that is it's not quite green screen. It's not going to quite work for that, but for interesting layering of multiple versions of the same singer at certain points, that can work. It's got a chance of working.
Shot
Because you don't have to worry about the background matching up. So you guys, when you're doing the chairs, it's quite difficult to get those multiple shots to actually match up. So that's one way you can get that effect fairly easily, really. And that's a definite convention. Tommy Kitten do it all the time. Most of them do not. It's a very, very common convention indeed.